All right, it is 6 o'clock, and this is the City of Merrill Redevelopment Authority meeting. We are in City Hall Council Chambers. It is November 12th, 2024. Next item on the agenda is the purpose of the meeting is the tax increment district number 6, 7, 11, and 12 project plan amendments in order to share increment with tax increment districts number 8, 9, and 10. At this point, I would entertain a motion to open the public hearing to discuss District 6, 7, 11, and 12.
I move. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to open the hearings. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tom, do you get anything you want to read about the?
Well, we noticed was published indicating that this body would meet to discuss tax incremental District 6, 7, 11, and 12 project plan amendments. The notice was properly published, and we noted that they filed with the city clerk's office.
Okay, thank you. Emily, did you have anything you want to?
Sure. As we're all aware, there was a revaluation in 2024, and there was consequently some pretty big swings in our values in our tax increment districts. And so, working with Ellers, we have Brian Riley here tonight with us. We're updating our forecasts and projections, and part of that was taking a look at the districts that might be able to donate to some of our underperforming districts, or so that might need a little help in the short term, just to cash flow. So that's really what we intended to do here. And I'll turn it over to Brian.
I think that's a fair assessment. Other than TID 9 has been challenged for basically since its inception. It has kind of ebbed and flowed out of having essentially no captured value to a few $100,000 at most, and so it was always assumed that it would need assistance. And in fact, there are some sharing relationships in place, and this would expand on that. And so the goal ultimately, I guess from a financial perspective, this has been discussed for a number of years, primarily to quicken the pace of recovery of the general fund advances to a number of the TIF districts, and also to act as a measure of, we'll call it a shock absorber, in the event that the values do fluctuate from year to year as they did this year, and sometimes it's just out of your control. So when districts are made donors, it does not require that the city share revenue from one district with another. It gives you the authority to do so. And it is a one-way door. You share the money, you transfer it over, you don't have to send it back. It does not create a liability on the balance sheet of any of the individual districts, whereas, say, an advance from the general fund does create a payable receivable situation. And you want to get that money back to the general fund. So this puts the city in actually a better position to be able to achieve that, where it's been kind of a trickle the last number of years. This should assist with bringing cash back onto the balance sheet of the general fund, whereas right now there are receivables payable from various tax increment districts. So I guess I'll probably leave it at that by and large. And really the only preconditions that we talked about with the meeting prior, which was of the members of the Joint Review Board, which is the other taxing jurisdictions, is that the recipient districts have to be certain district types. In this case, these are all blight districts. That's checking the box number 1. And that the fact that they're all in the same taxing jurisdictions is really checking box number 2. All right, so there's no like 2 counties overlying the city, multiple school districts with TIF districts being in different taxing jurisdictions. All of them are in the same jurisdiction, donor and recipient. And so you satisfy both requirements under statute in that regard.
Does the committee have any questions for Brian?
These dollar amounts that you reference as far as what's considered here in the resolutions, those are not specific, are they not? I mean, those are fluctuating. We don't have to do that dollar amount. That's an estimate of what could feasibly be done if Is that correct?
That's a fair assessment. Because these fall under the category of project plan amendments, there's a requirement under statute that when you prepare the notice to go into the paper, you have to put a dollar amount in there. So think of these as eligible project costs of the donor districts. If you went to amend the project plans to add projects to any active tax increment district, you'd have to do the same exact thing. You'd have to say, we expect to spend this much additional in this district, which is entirely an estimate that is arrived at for that specific purpose. It does not need to bear resemblance to reality as you go forward in time.
LaDonna, what numbers are you specifically referring to?
I think in the resolution, it's talking about, like District 6 would have 30,000 that it could potentially donate to TID 6, to TID 8, or 25,000 from TID to TID 9.
To your point, that is meant to address a specific requirement under statute only, and only for that purpose.
Okay.
But Brian, this is strictly increment value. We're not talking about revenue, we're talking about increment is being transferred.
This
then-
is tax increment. There's also value increment. So the value increment is the additional value over and above what was there at the point the districts were created. The tax increment, if there was some value there, there's still taxes being paid that all the jurisdictions, the base value that all the jurisdictions still collect. So let's say you had a property that was there and it was worth $500,000 at the time, but now it's $750,000 subsequent to that. It's the taxes on the 250 are the tax increment,
Right.
and that's the revenue to the TID. So that becomes available then to share with the recipient districts.
But this dollar amount, again, is the increment. And let's because I'm new on this committee.
Sure.
Say, for instance, you transfer $30,000 to TID 8. I guess a simple way of explaining that is saying, hey, 30,000 divided by 1,000 times the mill rate of the, nope, am I going the right direction? Times the
I think
mill
we're
rate?
doing, I think we're talking about revenue.
Okay.
We're transferring revenue from
So you're
the
actually transferring 30,000.
Yeah, you can't transfer the tax base
Okay,
because that's
alright.
in literally a line is drawn, a geographic boundary, and it's everything within that boundary that you're
So,
collecting the tax increment
okay.
revenue on.
Alrighty.
Think of it like its own fund. And so it's generating revenue. The revenue from that district can then be shared with the recipient district, which is geographically its own area of the city. So you can't transfer the tax base of each of them, but you
Okay,
can
alright.
transfer the tax revenue received by one into
I
another
guess what
district.
throws me is when they talk about tax increment. It's $30,000 in tax increment. But that's actual revenue flowing out of that district into the recipients. District.
Correct.
Okay. Then I know what I'm following.
Over the remaining life of that tax increment district. So it's not a single.
Or until it gets amended again, right?
Say that again?
It could be amended again, right?
Some of these districts, I don't want to get overly complicated, right? So the donor status stands for the life of the district. You would never need to amend a district again for that purpose. For districts that are still in their expenditure period, the period of time within which they can spend new dollars on eligible projects, you could amend the project plan to add projects if you wanted, and there was sufficient tax increment revenue to pay for additional costs plus the sharing. So you could do that. That remains to be seen. I don't see that coming anytime soon.
I think you were about to say it, but like say 30,000, that's over the life of the donor TID. That's not per year, or is it?
It's an estimate entirely, so it could be more, it could be less, but it is ostensibly over the remaining life of the donor district, so it's not a single point in time. Think about it this way, the council gets to make these decisions ultimately. You could give them a recommendation potentially from the RDA. The council essentially appropriates the dollars from the tax increment district to another one, and that can include cash that has accumulated and is sitting there right now.
No, but the 30 would be that's the total amount. It's
Correct.
not per year.
Could be more, could be less. We
Right.
got to put a number
And
in.
they can do it in
Yeah.
however, 5,000 this year, 10,000
You got
this
it.
year. Yep.
On
Correct.
page 17 of the packet is a cash flow estimate after sharing, and that sort of shows transfers from 6, 7, and 11 over time, and 12. Those are in blue.
I'll get there eventually. 17, I thought she said 17.
Certain assumptions have to be made to prepare all the cash flows, right? And so on an ongoing basis, this all gets reviewed regularly to determine whether or not sharing is needed and how much over the course of time.
Emily, could you say the page number again?
Sure, it was page 17.
Page 17 on mine isn't.
Oh.
Oh, there's two different.
Oh, I think I have old ones.
13, 21.
Here,
So I think it's off by 8.
I
So
believe that's the one.
It's-
So this will be
The
page
cash flow
21
for
of
TID
the
recipient district after sharing.
It says 17 as well.
Good job.
So
Brian, is it also correct if TID 8 and TID 10, before their expenditure period is, we
Gary-
reach that period, that they could also
Gary, I'm
become
looking at
donor
20
districts?
page 21.
21?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
I suppose.
Yeah,
You-
it's 23. 23.
A district that is a recipient can also be a donor.
Eventually.
That is possible.
Page 21, so that's this page 13.
We do have some positive stuff happening in those
Well, let me-
two. if-
You would still need to go through the same exact process.
Yep.
The districts would need to be amended to make them eligible donors to an eligible recipient district.
Yeah, I see page, I
So-
think this is what we're
On,
I think
on-
it's 25.
on page 25 of that.
25,
Right.
okay.
There are a series of pages that show the recipient districts before and after the
Right.
sharing relationship.
Okay.
Anyone here to speak for or against? Anyone on the phone?
So what's the first one? Not this.
Second call to speak for or against any of the
This is what I think he's talking about.
amendments in the public hearing? Third and final call for anybody here to speak for or against, or on the phone to speak for or against any amendments in the public hearing. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? The public hearing is closed. No, do we ask for a motion? Next, do you want to read the resolutions or
Certainly can.
general? Tom will read the resolutions here.
Frankly, you're going to have 4 resolutions before you this evening. They are identical except for the tax increment districts to which they refer. I will read resolution number 6 if the body wishes me to read them all. I'm more than happy to. I've been doing this a long time and I always look forward to it. Anyway, this would be a resolution approving an amendment to the project plan for tax incremental district number 6. Whereas the city of Merrill has determined the use of tax incremental financing is required to promote development and redevelopment within the city, whereas tax incremental district number 6, or the other districts, was created by the city on May 12, 2009, whereas the city now desires to amend the project plan of the district in accordance with provisions of Wisconsin Statute 66.1105, excuse me, and whereas such amendment will allow excess revenue to be transferred to tax incremental districts number 8, 9, and 10 as permitted under Wisconsin Statute Section 66.1105, sub 6, sub F, sub 2, and whereas an amended project plan for the district has been prepared that includes a statement listing the kind, number, and location of all proposed public works or improvements within the district, or to the extent provided in Wisconsin statutes outside the district, an economic feasibility study, a detailed list of estimated project costs, a description of the methods of financing all estimated project costs and the time when the related costs or monetary obligations are to be incurred, a map showing existing uses and conditions of real property in the district, a map showing proposed improvements and uses in the district, proposed changes of zoning ordinances, master plan, map, building codes, and city ordinances, a list of estimated non-project costs, a statement of the proposed plan for relocation of any persons to be displaced, a a statement indicating how the district promotes the orderly development of the city, in opinion of the city attorney and attorney retained by the city advising the plan is complete in compliance with Wisconsin statute 66.1105 sub 4 sub F. And whereas prior to its publication, a copy of the notice of public hearing was sent to the chief executive officer of Lincoln County, the Merrill Area School District, the North Central Technical College District, and any other entities having the power to levy taxes on property located within the district in accordance with the procedures specified in the tax increment law. Whereas in accordance with the procedures specified in the tax increment law, the RDA, November 12, 2024, held a public hearing concerning the proposed amendments to the district's project plan, providing interested parties a reasonable opportunity to express their views thereon. Now therefore be it resolved by the Redevelopment Authority of the City of Merrill that, one, the boundaries of the tax increment of District Number 6 will not change as a result of this amendment and will remain as designated in Exhibit A of the resolution. Two, it approves and adopts the amended project plan for the district attached to Exhibit B and recommends its approval to the common council. Three, amendment of the district's project plan to promote orderly development of the city. I point out to you that the resolutions on the other tax increment districts are virtually identical.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolutions and forward them to council for the amendments to the project plan for tax increment district number 6, 7, 11, and 12.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have adjournment. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Clyde. Appreciate it.